Hi guys, welcome to another episode of Rock Bottom Airsoft. It's good to see you again, and if it's your first time here, then as always it is good to see you, and I hope you're going to stick around. Okay, well, welcome to our weekend video. As you can see, we're back in the studio for our normal studio weekend video. Those of you who follow the channel will already know, but I normally look to upload 2 videos a week. We normally upload on a Wednesday. That would normally be gameplay related, and at the weekend, like today, normally on a Saturday, I look to upload gear, tech, replica reviews, unboxings, everything you can think of in our wonderful sport and hobby that is Airsoft. And that's what we're going to do today. So let's get straight into it. Now today, I'm sorry, if you're an experienced player, you might agree with some of my points, you might not, but we're going to have a little bit of a ramble today. One of our discussions, rather than looking at one particular thing, and I thought what we'd have a chat about today was cheap versus not so cheap, or affordable versus expensive. Those of you guys out there that have been following the channel for a while, you'll probably know that I always try to aim to do Airsoft on a more affordable slant. That's not to say I want to do it cheap and not work and not have fun, but I think it's possible to really enjoy this hobby of ours without having to spend a fortune on individual replicas or items. Obviously, if you want to, you can do, and there are certainly advantages to having deeper pockets, as it were, for your equipment and your replicas and everything else that we need. And as most of you will know if you play Airsoft, Airsoft isn't something that's really a cheap hobby or sport to be into. It can get quite expensive, but it doesn't always have to be. You can play basic games of Airsoft, go to skirmishes and have fun without spending an entire mortgage on the gear that you have. Now obviously we all aim to be like that, but we all end up buying more and more replicas. That's part of the fun, isn't it, guys? So so keep that in mind with everything we're discussing here. But what I wanted to look at today was if there is a discernible advantage to paying more for certain items in Airsoft. Now you'll hear it said a lot on the communities that you get what you pay for. Now I've found that in a lot of cases, yeah, that's true. In most consumer items these days, normally the more expensive items are higher quality and will certainly serve you better than cheaper items. Now what I have found in my time in Airsoft is that isn't always the case in Airsoft. It's not always the case that the more you pay, the better you get. And as an example, I've had guys ask me for advice on replicas that they've bought that they've paid £500 or £600 for the base replica, and it's not worked from day one. They've taken it out for their first game in the field and it stopped working. Now if you've spent that kind of money on a replica and it stops working on day one, you're going to be majorly unhappy about it. On the other hand, I myself and a lot of people I've encountered have got base level replicas as their primaries that they've only paid £100 or less in some cases for, and they have lasted them for years and never given them any trouble. And I've had that experience as well. I have replicas that cost what I would class as a large amount that I don't particularly enjoy using, and then I have replicas that I got for very budget prices, and I love them. I use them all the time. So that's what I thought we'd have a look at today. If you're a newer player, if you're just getting into the sport, or you're experienced and you're looking at, you know, these kind of budgets and people recommending things to you and thinking that you don't want to go cheap or you don't want to go too expensive and you want to fall in the middle somewhere, that's what we're going to discuss here. So I think the first thing we'll look at is replicas, because obviously the biggest part of the fun in Airsoft, one of the biggest parts of the fun of Airsoft, is the replicas. It's our toys, guys. It's our toy replica firearms that we run around the forest or our CQB skirmish fields, living out our action movie fantasies, all that type of thing. That's a big draw for me. I like collecting the replicas. They're a big part of it for me, and I'm sure they are for a lot of you guys out there. So let's start with them. Well, the first thing we're going to look at is an instance where very often you do get what you pay for. So first up, we've got pistols. Now, I'm going to look at G-Series pistols because they're a very common pistol on the field. There's a lot of them about. They're a good starting pistol. They work well, and they're easy to maintain. I like them. I always have. I've got a few of them. So that's where we're going to start. So this first one that we've got here, you'll probably recognise this. I've done a review on this pistol before. This is a Raven EU G18C series pistol. These are very, very affordable for a gas blowback pistol. It's still gas blowback, does everything you want it to do, has all the realism. It's got an aluminium slide and a polymer body, so it's metal where it should be metal. It looks the part, well, I think it does anyway. Hasn't got any trades on it because it is an affordable replica. So in this instance, if you were to buy one of these G series, you can pick one of these up for around about 75 British pounds if you look in the right places. So they're very affordable. So for you guys over in the States there, I do apologise if I'm not giving the dollar amounts here, but you'll get the idea. If it's more affordable here, it's certainly going to be more affordable for you guys as well, just in a dollar amount. So on these EU series from Raven, you're looking around about, you can pick one of these base black ones up for around about 75 to 80 British pounds. So that's very affordable, I'm sure you guys, for a gas blowback sidearm. It comes with a magazine, comes with everything you need to get started apart from BBs and green gas. So I mean, that to me is a really good buy. Now in my case, this has never let me down. I've had this one now for probably about 4 or 5 years. And it's been used extensively, which is why it's got scratches and things on it. But it has never stopped working on me. It's never failed not to cycle, and it's never failed to actually send a BB down range. And it works fine for me. I've got friends at my home site that also use these, and one of them had a broken hammer, and the other one, it's been working fine. The one with the broken hammer was predominantly run on CO2, which I wouldn't run one of these on CO2 personally. But the other friend I have that has one, he's had no problems with his either. So that just shows that they are affordable and they work. So that, you know, is usable in a skirmish. I know because I've used it in a skirmish. But according to communities and forums, a lot of people haven't been quite so lucky, and they've found that these have not worked at all for them. They've had breakages, stoppages, they've had problems with consistency and accuracy and range. Not an issue I've had, and not an issue my friends that I've encountered that own them have had either. But some people obviously had those issues, so that would lead me to think that there's a quality control issue somewhere. So that's your affordable option there. Now then, if you step up a bit, you're going into this G series here. Now this isn't full auto, this is a G17, predominantly the same pistol but without the fun switch. You can't go on to full auto with this one. However, this is the Armourer Works Hex Cut G series pistol. Now this one is considerably more expensive. You're going to be looking at around about between 150 to 200 British pounds depending on where you get it from. So it's nearly double the price of this one. Now in this case, more is more. It's not a case of more is less. You do get what you pay for in gas blowback. Probably because of the machining, the techniques that they use to put these together, and obviously the quality control issues. As you can see from the gaps on the pistols there, the gapping on this pistol, there's a lot of slop in the slide, whereas with the Armourer Works, it's, you know, nowhere near as much slop, not as much gap. The whole quality of the pistol feels better. The polymer is better quality than the polymer on this one. There's a lot less rattle with it when you've got the pistol in your hand, which obviously shows it's better put together. This pistol is far more consistent. This is better on gas. It's heavier. It looks a lot better in my personal opinion, but again, a lot of that's down to personal opinion. You can see from the pin here, you've got a brass pin. Just all round better quality. The cycling of the replica is better, and there is nothing likely to break in the short term on this Armourer Works pistol. I mean, as we've said before guys, these are basically an upgraded WEG17, but again, for middle ground, I would say that the WEG series pistols that I have, again, feel better quality than the Raven G series that I have. So overall, in this case, expense wins. The more you pay for your gas blowback, the better. There will be exceptions, so you'd have to do your research on that a little bit. But on the whole, what I've found with pistols, particularly with sidearms, that if you pay a little bit more you get much better quality. Now obviously Tokyo Marui might be one of those exceptions to the rules. If you're not bothered about having a metal slide from the get-go, but you want good performance and good consistency, then Tokyo Marui do seem to be king on those. But again, Tokyo Marui will be much more expensive than this Raven, depending on what Tokyo Marui pistol you get. But as I say, generally, the more you pay for your gas blowback, the better it's going to be, particularly with sidearm pistols. I have noticed from friends that run gas blowback rifles, I'm no expert on gas blowback, guys, I prefer my AEGs, but from my friends that are into the gas blowbacks, they will say the same thing in rifles, that the more expensive, well-known brands of gas blowback will normally be much better put together than the more affordable brands, and they will shoot much better for you. So in this case, I would say that if you're looking for a sidearm, yes, the Raven, I have no problems with it. You can skirmish it, not a problem. I've had no issues. I quite like it. I use it more than a lot of my pistols. So again, from a fun point of view, yeah, money doesn't really affect it. However, if you are looking for a quality sidearm, this Armourer Works is much better than this Raven in every regard. And the same can be said for a WE or a Tokyo Marui, which will maybe be a little more affordable than the Armourer Works, but still much more expensive than the Raven. So if you are after a pistol, I still can recommend this. I've had no problems with it, and you will be able to skirmish with it. However, don't expect it to have the quality control that you will get with this. You're much more likely to have a fault develop with one of these, from experiences that I've had, than you will with one of these. And that goes a lot for sidearms. So that's sidearms, guys. With regard to sidearms as well with gas blowback, one thing worth considering as well is the magazines. This is a Raven G-Series magazine, and this is the Armourer Works G-Series magazine that comes with that hex cut. Now obviously that's a speed cut magazine, it's chromed up. However, you can see that the quality of the valves, the seals and the O-rings, etc. are much better on the Armourer Works. The knocker valve is better quality. The overall magazine quality is better. Now I've got a lot of these Raven magazines, and I would say that around 70% of these, that when I buy them from new, have leaked. So these have developed a leak from new, but they are much cheaper than an Armourer Works magazine. So again, where gas blowback is concerned, you get what you pay for when you're buying a magazine. So the Armourer Works one has never leaked from me ever. I've not had to do any repairs on that. These ones, I still use them because they're affordable, and I'm quite happy to repair them myself. And I did do a video on how to repair most leaks on these pistol sidearm magazines. However, it's a bit of a faff, isn't it, guys? You're paying a little bit less, but you're getting you're not getting your value. You pay a little bit more for this one, and you're getting so much more. Less chance of leaks, a more reliable feed, better quality components. So these ones, much more affordable with a Raven. Again, these ones, a little bit more expensive, but well worth it, guys. You have less hassle, and if you're not happy taking these things apart and fixing the leaking O-rings yourself, these ones are going to give you trouble. These ones, not so much. So again, that's another thing with gas blowback, guys. You certainly get what you pay for, and that goes for magazines. So while we're on the subject of magazines, we're going to get into your primary shortly, which I will focus on AEG. Magazines with AEGs, I have noticed that you don't always get what you pay for with magazines. You can obviously buy PTS, EPM mags and things like that, and yeah guys, they are going to feed, but you're paying a lot of money for those magazines. They are good quality, but they won't feed in every replica. Not every replica behaves the same way with every brand of magazine, so there is a bit of trial and error involved with it. For example, I did a review a while ago on the channel about the Battle Axe mid-cap magazines. Now those Battle Axe mid-cap magazines, guys, they're well cheap. They're about £8 per magazine, and I have never had problems with those. I've been running a couple of those for, I think, 2 or 3. I've got her about 2 or 3 years old, and they still feed same as the day that I got them. So in their cases, you know, you're not paying a lot, and you're getting so much. You know, you don't get much more for paying that little bit more, you know? So the affordable slant there, I'd definitely go affordable with magazines if you can. But again, it all depends on the replica you're running and how well it's compatible with certain magazines. So keep that in mind, guys. But where magazines are concerned, you don't have to spend a fortune on magazines. Use the magazines that you prefer. If your budget extends to a more expensive magazine, that's fine. But on the whole, it doesn't always relate to how well the magazine feeds. Some of the cheaper magazines feed better than some of the more expensive magazines. G&G being a perfect example. Some of G&G's high caps, I've had nothing but trouble with them. They don't feed at all, and they ain't that cheap either. Whereas the Battle Axe ones, I've had feeding fine. On the drum mags, on the other hand, the G&G drum mags are better than any other drum mag I've used. Whereas the Battle Axe drum mag, which is much more affordable than the G&G one, that's not much use in my replicas. Other people have had success, not so much for me. So again, you know, with magazines, apart from the gas blowback ones, but with magazines for AEGs, there is a lot of trial and error, guys. But don't always think that because the magazine's more expensive, it's going to work better in your replica. That simply isn't true. Sometimes the magazine that works best in your replica will be the most affordable magazine. So keep a lookout for that, guys. So with mags out the way, let's have a look at a couple of my AEGs. Now, before we get into cost on AEGs, I must stress that, as I've said before, I try to do Airsoft on a more affordable slant, which is what this channel revolves around as well. And I don't want to be spending more than I think you need to for your replicas and whatever you want to use in the field. Now, there's two replicas here. I wouldn't personally want to spend more than £300 on any AEG. Now, I know a lot of you guys do, and if you do, there are some absolutely awesome AEGs that cost over that. But for me, they're outside my budget. They're too expensive for me. It's not something that I could buy. There's plenty that I want, don't get me wrong, guys. You know, some of the Tokyo Marui replicas are awesome. Some of the Crytek ones are awesome, and a lot of those are over £300 in a big way. To be honest, guys, the most I normally spend on my primary replicas is around about £200. That's my upper limit that I tend to aim for. However, again, I do a lot of my own tech. As you guys that follow the channel know, I like to tech. So, you know, I buy a more affordable replica, and then over time I'll upgrade it and have it performing as good as something that costs more money. So something to keep in mind when you're listening to this discussion here, guys, is if you're not happy about taking these things apart, but you want all the features of an upgraded replica, then that's where cost can sometimes get you. You can sometimes get much more features and much better rates of fire performance by spending a little bit more money because the manufacturer has already done that upgrading work for you. I think you get that case with some of the Novrich replicas. I know there's very mixed opinions on the communities, but a couple of guys have just got the new AR replica at Tazball from Novrich, and I was quite impressed with the performance. I mean, out of the box, that's running really well. Sounds good, the shimming's up to scratch, you know, it's really well shooting. And then a lot of the Crytek replicas, I don't personally own a Crytek, but a lot of my friends at Airsoft do, and they shoot really well. But equally as well, as I say, affordable replicas have shot really well out of the box as well. So the replicas we've got here, the first one, this is a Spectre Arms Edge. This one comes with a MOSFET from Gate. It's an inline MOSFET, so you've still got your mechanical trigger. There's no optical MOSFET in here. But this one you can pick up for around about 160 to 200 pounds, British pounds. So for me, that's affordable, because for that money, it's not cheap, but I mean, I would definitely class it as affordable. You're getting a full metal upper and lower receiver, full metal outer barrel. Let's just call it full metal, guys. Basically, everything on the real firearm that would be metal is metal on this replica. So the only polymer bits are the polymer bits that you'd have on the real replica. So with that in mind, you're getting trades on here. So you've got Rock River Arms, which is a real firearms manufacturer, all the details of the caliber. It looks like the real thing, guys. So that's what you're paying for in a lot of cases. A really nice looking body receivers, barrel, etc. You know, and that's what you're paying for. So in this case, you're paying around about £200 and for £200 I'd argue that this would look just as good receiver and barrel wise and furniture than, you know, 90% of replicas that you get on the field. It'll look just as good, just as realistic. Might not have the performance of some of the more pricey ones though. However, again, I would put this as affordable rather than budget. And I think if you want metal receivers and you want a MOSFET as standard and some of the higher end features, then this is a good place to land, 160 to 200 British pounds. So in that case, I would say that on this instance, yeah, you pay a bit more, you get a bit more. So let's look at the other replica that I've got out here, and this one is what I would class as cheap. This is a Cymer. Well, I'll be honest with you guys, this started out as a Cymer CM503. Now, like I say, I like to tech, and as you can probably tell, this no longer looks nothing like a Cymer CM503. However, the upper and lower receiver and the outer barrel are still, and the pistol grip, are still the original parts that came with this replica. I've since upgraded it over a number of years. I use it as my test bench for trying out new parts, and it's had loads of work done to it. However, this replica, when I bought it, was my first ever replica, and I think I picked it up for about 70 British pounds. It might have been less than that back then, it might have been 60. But nowadays, I think you can get hold of one of these for about between 70 and 80 British pounds, which I'm sure you'll agree, guys, for an AEG that comes with a battery, charger and magazine is dirt cheap. Now, having said that, I wouldn't personally use the charger that comes with it. You're better off with a smart charger. But at an absolute push, it has everything in the box you need to get shooting. Now, I'll be honest with you guys, I used this in my first game. I had a blast, and I used it in all my subsequent games. I only had this replica for about, I must have been at least 6 months, maybe 7 months. And I used to go skirmishing there every 2 weeks, I still do. And every 2 weeks this would come out and it never ever let me down. It worked well. Didn't have the best range of every replica on the field. It didn't have the best rate of fire or the best trigger response. But the point is, guys, I had fun. I had great fun. I still do have great fun with whichever replica I use. But at the time, this was all I had. Now, since then, this has been heavily upgraded. There's hardly anything left of the original replica that was there apart from the receivers and the pistol grip, as I say. However, on this one, you're getting a full plastic upper and lower receiver. Everything on there is plastic. The buffer tube is standard, is plastic. Your rails are plastic. It's a full plastic replica. And the plastics are not the best quality in the world. They're not like a solid polymer that you get with G&G. But if you're just looking to get into skirmishing, I had great fun with this. The gearbox is still a full metal box. It's fully upgradable, as I have done with this. So it's a bed for working up through your replica collection. And I still use this today. I use this quite a lot. I love the thing. 80 British pounds gets you into a skirmish gun that's ready to go, and I have skirmished many times. You can definitely skirmish it. So I would say in AEGs, no, you don't always get what you pay for. So you work to your budget, guys. Don't let it put you off having a lower budget. If you want to play and you want your own gear, you can pick something like this up for around about 80 British pounds. Probably won't do you for your whole career of Airsoft. It'll end up being your spur or something like that, because you'll want more. Everybody does. But in this case, that's two replicas there with two budgets in mind that I would say get you skirmishing very affordably, whatever your budget is. And neither of these replicas have ever let me down in any skirmish they've been to in all sorts of weathers, because I play outside. Now, as I said, you could spend £500–600 on a replica. It's not necessarily going to function any better. The quality control, yeah, well, I've witnessed that firsthand, that we've had replicas at my home site, brand new out of the box, one game, and they stopped working. Whereas these ones, just keep going and going, guys. They're built like tanks. But again, you're not getting all those additional toys. This one does have a MOSFET. This one doesn't come with a MOSFET. Again, do you need a MOSFET? You've got to think these things through, guys. So my upshot here would be is no, you don't always get what you pay for when it's cheap versus expensive in the AEG world. So keep that in mind, guys. Don't be put off by budgets and AEGs. Do a bit of research on the one that you're particularly looking at and see whether it comes with the parts that you want. If you want MOSFETs and you want really high rates of fire and 11-1 batteries and really long range without doing any of the tech yourself, then yeah, you might have to pay a bit more. But you don't necessarily have to pay a fortune. For example, Cymer make an AKS74U, which out of the box, the range on that thing is amazing for the two I've tried. And again, it's only about 150, 160 British pounds. So, you know, an affordable replica, whereas you could go out and get, for example, an LCT one, which, yeah, the furnishings and that might be a bit more realistic. It's got kudos there. But that could let itself go first game out. And I've encountered that as well, guys. One of them going down its very first game out, the trigger broke. So, again, guys, yeah, it's not always the case that more money means better. Not in Airsoft, in AEGs. They all work on the same principles normally. The gearboxes are all the same versions. There might be some slight proprietary parts. But again, guys, that's not always a good thing. Some of the manufacturers use proprietary parts in their high-end replicas. Makes it much harder for upgrades, much harder for repairs. So keep that in mind. If you can get something that's TM compatible and has the features you want, then don't be put off by price, because at the end of the day, they all work the same way and a lot of them are all made in the same part of the world. So that's something to bear in mind as well, guys. So that's AEGs. And then I think we should probably look at sights, optics. Now, I'm definitely not an optics specialist. As those of you who know me know, I tend to track the BBs. My optics are primarily for show. I don't use them. However, that is different when it comes to my snipers. On the snipers, I do use my optics. And in those cases, with optics, you certainly get what you pay for, guys. There's no argument in it. A cheap optic will look just as good, but probably won't function half as well as a well-made optic. So warranties, that kind of thing, are another advantage of more expensive optics, but it's mainly to do with the lenses, the quality of the glass, the quality of the reflective screens, parallax, just everything about them, eye relief. You get much, much better quality if you spend a bit more on optics. So if you intend to use your optic to aim down sights, and that is primarily how you're going to play, if all your playing is going to be aiming, especially if you're going to be sniping and primarily using a scope, you don't need to go crazy on the budget, unless obviously you have that budget, but you will get more for your money on optics. The more you spend, generally, the better you get. So yeah, it's value for money. So there are very few exceptions to the rule where optics are concerned. The more you pay, the better you get generally. And I would never argue that with anybody, even not being an optics user. I know that very much like cameras and things like that, anything that uses optics, the more you pay, generally, the better you get. So go for your well-known brands if you're going to rely on your optic a lot. Do a bit of research onto what the best optics are. Obviously, we don't need to worry about recoil or anything like that in the Airsoft world. They don't have to withstand the abuse of military activities or firearms or anything like that. But you still will get what you pay for holding zero, for mounting systems, for the quality of the image you can see through the optic, for the quality of the sight picture, for your eye relief. So much stuff goes into optics, guys, so you definitely do get what you pay for where optics are concerned. And then the last thing we'll look at today, because we could go on about this for ages, guys, is BBs. Don't cheap out on your BBs, guys. You generally do get what you pay for with BBs. Cheap BBs will jam up in your barrel, in your hot bucking, cause various problems with the AEG. If you get jams and you keep pulling the trigger, it can do a lot of damage, guys. People don't really consider it. I've encountered a few newer players that have had very cheap BBs and they couldn't understand why the replica stopped working. And it's just because in one case, I had one guy had about 4 or 5 BBs jammed into his barrel. BBs, yes, a lot of them are made in the same factories. Yes, they're made to similar tolerances, but some tolerances are better than others. So, you know, some of them can be not quite round. They've got little bits on them. They shatter easily. They're outsized. So, yeah, you've got to be careful with BBs, guys. Make sure you get decent quality BBs. Don't cheap out on those. Affordable does not win on BBs. So you definitely can't go cheap on BBs. So that's something to bear in mind as well, guys. So what have we got here then? Gas blowbacks, I would say that you get more the more you pay. Better quality for the more expensive gas blowbacks. With very few exceptions, like a lot of people, including myself, like the ASG Mark 23, which is very affordable, but it's not gas blowback, it's a non-blowback, but it's still a very good pistol that works on gas, very affordable. The AAP 01 at the moment is doing the rounds. That's very popular, and again, that's not that expensive. So there's a couple of exceptions to the rule there, but generally, say you're looking for a G series pistol, the more you pay, the more you're going to get. You're going to get your trades, such as if you go for one of the Umarex licensed ones, you get your trades, you get your markings, you get better quality materials, and a longer lasting sidearm. AEGs, not so much the case on those. Yes, if you spend more, you're going to get more features. But as for quality and whether you're going to have more fun in the field with it, well, the fun in the field is up to yourself. I had great fun with this, I still do. But the features, that's what you want. You know what I mean? Something like this, the Spectre, you're going to get all the features I think you'd need for even a high-end replica, and it's not going to cost you as much. You still get the metal work, you still get the trades. So yeah, you don't always get what you pay for in AEGs, guys. So don't worry about the price of it. Don't think that you have to spend more to get more or for it to be better with AEGs. So there's certainly exceptions to the rule. We mentioned magazines. Again, that's the same again. You've got to find the magazines that feed best for you, and don't think that because it's the most expensive magazine, it'll work best for you. Sometimes the most affordable magazine will be the best magazine for you. So you don't always have to spend more to get more where magazines are concerned. Optics, certainly spend more, you get more. The more expensive optics will be definitely better quality than the cheaper optics generally, for any situation, whether that be cameras, whether that be your sights. BBs, definitely do not cheap out on BBs. You get better if you spend a bit more. There are exceptions. I've had some bad BBs that have cost me a lot of money and they've been very poor, but they've been newer brands that I've been trying out. But generally, don't go for the cheapest BBs you can get, because you're going to get problems off them, guys, okay? And then all that leaves you with is gear, such as your rigs, your clothing, that type of thing. Generally, yes, again, you will get what you pay for on those things, but I might be time for another video on that one, because I think with gear and clothing, it depends how realistic you want your loadout to look. But if it's just for playing in, honestly, guys, you don't need to spend the kind of money that Cry or something like that would set you back, because at the end of the day, guys, remember, we're not going to war here. It's a game. We're playing for fun. So it's not going to have to withstand the heavy use that military gear does. So as long as it looks the part and it doesn't rip the first time you're out, then you're usually okay. But I think we'll save gear for another video. So there you go, guys. If you made it this far in the video, thanks very much for listening to me ramble on. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you got something for it. And if you have any stories, guys, yourselves, if you've had experience where you found that, you know, cheaper has been better, or if you found that, you know, cheaper has been a lot worse, let me know in the comments, guys. I'll always respond to a comment. I might not get back to you straight away, but I will always respond. The other side of it as well is in the comments is if you disagree completely. If you think that you do get what you pay for in Airsoft and you do think it's worth spending more money on an item, then let me know, and you know, that'd be great, just to get a feel for how you guys feel for the equipment that you get. I'm also sorry guys that I haven't covered HPA. All I will say with HPA is that is a choice of play style. I really like HPA, but HPA, as a lot of you'll know, is not cheap. If you're going to go down the HPA route, that's going to cost you. You definitely get what you pay for with HPA. So we'll leave it at that with HPA. If you're a newer player, I would imagine you might not be looking to go that route straight away. But if you are, great, I'm well jealous. So there you go guys, I hope you enjoyed that video. If you did enjoy it, then please drop a like on it. Thanks very much for watching, and I will look forward to seeing you in the next one.